Hey everybody, it's JJ and it's Thursday on the Breakfast Club. Last week I talked about, what did I talk about? Oh, I talked about politicizing tragedy and kind of some of my thoughts and internal battle over that concept in general. And Paul made a comment that reminded me of something that I have wanted to talk about for a while. And basically in his comments, he mentioned that even neutrality is a stance on something, and kind of the concept as there is no hands-free way to address any issue. That's not really the right way I want to phrase it. The way I want to phrase it is neutrality is a stance. And my thought on this kind of started with the rise of the whole egalitarian movement in opposition to feminism, and how I noticed that people who labeled themselves as egalitarian, especially in the internet realm of communication, were often combating with feminists, largely. That's not to say that they didn't promote important issues, or they didn't battle with men's rights activists, but it seemed largely like egalitarianism was this new internet phenomena proposed to combat modern third wave, post-third wave feminism, whatever you want to fucking call it. And what I feel to this day is dangerous about this movement is that it hides under the guise of equality and objectivity and neutrality and being the person in the middle, and how that is noble and how that is desirable, or how that is the only logical, appropriate, productive position to be in. And it's egalitarianism promoted itself as this middle, this direct middle, this I'm on either side of the scale. And I felt that was dangerous because I don't think that's what it is. I think that's a lie. I think that's disingenuous. I think that calling yourself an egalitarian is just as much of a position as calling yourself a feminist or an anti-feminist or a men's rights activist or a MGTOW or a Nazi or whatever you want to call yourself, or alt-right. Basically, I don't think the definition we all understand of neutrality exists. I don't think anything can be truly neutral, truly PH7. You know what I mean? I feel like neutrality is a stance. There is no way for a human being to not have a stance on anything that they encounter, unless you live in a part of a world where you don't know this issue exists. If you lived in some village in the middle of nowhere and you didn't know Donald Trump existed, you can't have an opinion on him. But I hear a lot of people all of the time say that, oh, I don't care about politics, I'm kind of neutral, I'm kind of in the middle. That's a stance. That's reflected in our democratic society and a voting process, and this is just an example, but, your neutrality prevented a different person from being elected president. Your neutrality prevented different people in the House and the Senate in general. So neutrality is a stance. And I want people to recognize this and admit this, because I have a lot of friends who identify as middle, moderate, egalitarian. That does not mean that you are better than anybody else. That does not mean that you are stepping away from the tribalistic mentality of current politics. You know what I mean? It's not like it's some profound opening your third eye thing to be a moderate, to be in the middle, to be neutral. And I know plenty, and I'm not saying it's bad to try to avoid tribalism, but be honest with yourself. There are tons of people who call themselves middle moderates, egalitarians, who are more tribalistic than anyone I've ever met. And the middle can be a tribe. So that's just something that I kind of wanted to get out of my mind, because I think that it is dangerous, because, you know, when you talk about radical feminism, or you talk about radical men's rights activism, if you talk about the alt-right, you know, these all have super powerful stigmas associated with them because of the name, because of the history, because of the context, because of the loud nature of them all. But when someone sits here and says that they're an egalitarian, they're neutral, they're moderate, they're in the middle, they can hide under this shield of what we perceive to be neutrality, but is actually not. I can't find the words to describe. I don't want to say hands off. Like, they want to be like a step away from everything. Like, oh, I just don't want to get involved in this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like looking at both sides. You know, that's a stance. And it's just as much of a stance as anything else. And so I definitely think it's something to think about if you're one of these people, or if you're not. I don't know. That's all I had to say. Hopefully you found it interesting or insightful in some way. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.